I'm Ashwath Ram, the Managing Director of Cummins India Limited. Hope all of you and your families are doing well and are healthy. Also joining me on today's call is our CFO Ajay Patil. I want to thank all of you for joining us on this call. I would like to share the financial results of the quarter ended June 30th, 2020 through this call. Here are the financial results. For the quarter ended June 30th, 2020 with respect to the sequential quarter, our total net sales stood at rupees 484 crores, which declined by 53% compared to 1,032 crores recorded in the preceding quarter. Domestic sales stood at 358 crores, which declined by 54%. Exports stood at 126 crores and declined by 51%. Profit before tax and exceptional items were at 70 crores, which declined by 42% compared to 121 crores recorded in the preceding quarter. For the quarter ended June 30th, with respect to the quarter ended June 30th, 2019, our total net sales stood at 484 crores, declined by 63% compared to 1,316 crores recorded in the same quarter last year. Domestic sales stood at 358 crores, which declined by 64%. Exports at 126 crores declined by 61%. Profit before tax and exceptional items at 70 crores is 64% lower as compared to 194 crores recorded in the same quarter last year. The segment-wise breakup for quarter ended March 31, 2020. To give you a sense of the sales breakup per segment, industrial domestic business sales were at 80 crores, which is a 68% drop over last year. Power generation domestic sales were at 96 crores, which is a 75% drop over last year. And the distribution business sales were at 183 crores, which is a 47% drop over last year. High horsepower export sales were 57 crores, which is a 67% drop over last year. Low horsepower export sales were 55 crores, which is a 58% drop over last year. As far as Cummins India financial guidance is concerned, the company expects gradual recovery of demand in coming months. However, there remains significant uncertainty about how COVID will impact market demand as well as customer and supplier operations. Due to this uncertainty, the company is not providing a full year revenue guidance for financial year 2021. With this, I would like to open the session for questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. With this, we will open the floor for Q&A interactive session. For participants, if you wish to ask a question, you may please press 0 and then 1 on your telephone keypad and wait for your line to be unmuted. I'll repeat, you need to press 0 and then 1. First question of the day we have from Ravi Swaminathan from Spark Capital. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Good morning. Thanks for taking my question. My first question is with respect to the power gen business. If you could give a broad flavor as to how the demand scenario currently is in terms of commercial buildings, hotels, hospitals, IT offices, data centers, etc. So if you can spend on each subsegment sometime, it will be great. As to what percentage of the usual normal at which these are?
Right. So first I'll tell you a little bit in that the demand is coming back, but it is coming back in an asymmetrical manner, in the sense that certain segments such as rental, data center and healthcare are leading as far as demand recovery is concerned. And other segments such as hospitality, segments such as commercial realty and even residential realty is coming back. Some areas of manufacturing is all coming back at a lot more gradual rate. And you can understand the reasons why they would be coming back at that rate. But certain segments are coming back quickly and certain others are going to take a longer time to recover.
Will it be, say, on this hospitality, commercial real estate, will it be 50-60% of normal, or it will be higher than that? And how about data centers? Are they flattish compared to last year, or how is it?
I can tell you that data centers has caught up to last year, and in some areas is even doing better. Whereas hospitality, etc., is in pretty bad shape, and it's going to take quite some time to recover.
Got it, sir.
It's very badly impacted. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. My second question is with respect to the other income. This quarter it was on the higher side. Can you do the breakup of the other income and the corresponding other income in the previous quarter? I mean, in 1Q FY20.
Yeah, I think the biggest positive impact on other income is we have received an income tax refund from an earlier time, which had close to 35 crore positive impact. And because our rental income continued in spite of these difficult times, it has also had a positive impact.
Got it, sir. I'll get back in the queue for more questions.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. Next, we have Sandeep Kuljian from JM Financial. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, very good morning. So firstly, if you could provide us with a breakup of the industrial segment sales, and also related question to that is, we have mentioned in the annual report that the power car market demand is likely to fall by 50%, given the electrification drive by the railways. But some part of it will be made up by this diesel electric power cars. So if you could share some data points on that, how big is power car market sales for Cummins India right now, and going forward, how much of it can be made up with diesel electric power cars, and how much would be actual loss in terms of income? That's my first question.
Yeah, so power cars is a pretty big portion of the rail business for us. We are pretty confident that we will, whatever business gets converted to other forms of usage, that we have alternate strategies and ideas by which we can make up pretty much all of that income. So I'm not too worried about that income. But in this period, we are certainly seeing that because most of the places where power cars are used are in the passenger rail portion of the business. And since passenger rails have been all down since March, and they are expected to come back only gradually, so the recovery of that segment within the rail segment is also expected to be a little bit more gradual. We are not worried about our ability to make up for those sales when the potential conversion to electrification happens. That itself is a gradual path over the next few years. But even in spite of those kinds of scenarios, it's going to come out of this recessionary tendency a little more gradually.
And the breakup for the segment?
Yeah. So if you look at our sales in the industrial business, we had about 80 crores of sales this quarter. And just to clarify, this quarter we are talking about the April to June quarter, and we were pretty much shut for 2 months of that quarter. And so this, you can take this as we had a 1 month quarter basically. And we had We had about 12 crores of compressor sales, 8 crores of construction sales, 15 crores of mining, 35 crores of rail, 4 crores of marine, and 6 crores of others. It's not a typical kind of quarter.
Got it. And the second question is, we did mention about some of the new products that we're introducing in the distribution segment, mainly the coolants, diesel exhaust fluid for BS6 vehicles, as well as batteries for e-vehicles. If you could just help us, what is the procurement arrangement with which of the group companies or external parties? What kind of margins can we clock? What kind of the scope of this entire market size? Some more color if you can throw on this entire business segment.
Yeah. So, as you know, we have a joint venture subsidiary called Valvoline, and they are involved in this business. And we are just using our distribution channel to sell some of those products. So I can't share the exact margin information, etc. on that, but I can assure you it's a good business. It's complementary to everything. It utilizes our chain, which is already set up and established over many years. It utilizes it a lot more effectively, and it brings more top line and bottom line to our business. So it's a good business for us, and we are pushing aggressively to expand that.
So any data you can share, like what should be the growth? It should form like 10% of your distribution.
I can't share that right now because first of all, it's very difficult to correlate and say how quickly some of those markets are going to recover. That's one reason, and all I can tell you is that we are excited about that segment, and we expect it to play an important part in our growth.
Got it. All right, sir. I had some more questions, but I'll come back in with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ranjit Shivram from ICICI Securities. The line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, sir, and congrats on a good margin. Gross margins have been better than expectation. So in that context, we just wanted to understand that is that largely due to that higher mix of distribution where the margins are higher, that we were able to show a better lower raw mat to sales, or was there any other element also in that better than expected gross margins?
You're certainly right that mix had a big part to play in better margins, but you're also right that distribution business decline was lower, but then we also had some favorable mix impact on high horsepower versus low horsepower, which contributed to that. We had some material cost advantages with cost reduction, which also helped, and we had some one-time E&O kind of benefits compared to the previous quarter, which also helped us, or previous year, which also helped us. So it's a combination of those three factors, but certainly the positive mix between DBU and the other businesses, as well as within power generation, higher shift towards high horsepower helped us in this time.
Okay, and what was that, if you can quantify that one-time benefit of in the raw mat?
The E&O, we had some E&O in the previous year, which we did not have this year. So it impacted us positively.
Okay. And sir, if you can just give us the breakup of the power gen in terms of HHP, MHP, high and low.
Sure. So as far as the domestic business is concerned, we had sales of 96 crores. Out of that, we had nearly 60 crores of high horsepower sales. We had 24 crores of medium horsepower sales and 13 crores of low horsepower sales.
Okay, in terms of mid-range?
So when you look at it as that classification, we had 21 crores of mid-range sales and 13 crores of heavy-duty sales.
Okay. And sir, what should be the material cost to a sale? Are you seeing a clear trend that we will be able to contain that from the previous highs? What's the kind of run rate which you think that will be a sustainable material cost to sales or gross margins for us?
I don't see a very major change in this. Things will come back to a normal level as the volume ramps back up and the mix normalizes between the different factors I spoke about earlier. So I don't see a very significant change in material margin. Certainly, many of the cost improvement initiatives that we are driving should help in improving that a little bit, but not very, very significantly.
Okay. And sir, lastly, in the exports, if you can explain which all geographies did relatively better, and where do you see the demand coming back from which geographies?
Yeah. So what I can say is that it is not because of lack of demand that the numbers are so much lower in this quarter. It is mainly because we only shipped product for 1 month out of 3. So it's pretty uniform when I see the shipments across the different geographies. So we will know only by this quarter whether the geographies are recovering at a different rate as compared to how we are doing, and if there are some relative advantages in some other markets. Certainly, we know for a fact that China and North America are recovering at a faster rate compared to other geographies. But as of now, like I said, since the main reason why our sales are lower is because we did not ship, we will know only in the next quarter the real impact of the geographical spread.
Okay, sir. Thank you and all the best. I'll join for further questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next we have Renu Baid from IIFL. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, good morning, sir. I have a couple of questions. My first question is, what could be the update with respect to the implementation of emission norms, both for the industrial engines as well as CPCB 4, which was proposed? And how are we with respect to our progress on both the design engineering as well as the capability side?
Okay, so let me first answer that question. First, let me talk about the industrial side. The first emission that was going to be implemented was CEV BS4, and that has already, there's notification that has been pushed out by 3 quarters, and that notification has already come out. We expect similar, as of now, there is no notification for CPCB 4+, but we are expecting a similar kind of push out in that emissions norm as well. And we are just waiting for the notification, but the industry bodies have all guided that that would be better for the different businesses going into the development. We continue to work very aggressively in the development of these products. We have made great progress on the development of these products, and we continue to remain optimistic that will help us win market share and grow the business, and we are seeing a lot of more opportunities open up for us as we upgrade the technology.
And specifically on the industrial engine side, should that help us in terms of the margins and the growth that we see, or there could be some changes in this segment as well?
As we have always seen in markets around the world, as we transition from pure mechanical engines to electronic engines with after treatment that are both our top line and bottom line improves in the process.
Okay, sure. So the second question would be to understand across business segments. You mentioned last time as well that distribution will be the earliest to recover, followed by industrial and exports, and power gen will lag. So based on, I know it's a pretty short timeline, but based on the last 40-45 days of order inquiries that you're seeing through, what are you seeing in terms of pillars of recovery across all these segments, or they normalizing back to 100% levels? What could be the possible timelines and qualitative inputs from your side?
They are bouncing back is what I can tell you, and obviously they are going to move at different rates in different segments, as I mentioned to one of the earlier questions. We see data centers and telecommunication and those kinds of industries, rental, those kinds of industries ramp up pretty quickly and may even do better than what they were doing in previous years. We see some segments like hospitality and residential realty as well as commercial realty, places where their core business is impacted, like manufacturing, to defer capex and large equipment till they get their base businesses under control, so take a slightly longer time to recover. I don't think we will fully recover and come back to previous levels in a very, very short time. It will be graduated over a slightly longer period is our feeling at this stage. But this quarter which we are working on, the July to September quarter, will give us a better indication of how quickly things will bounce back.
Okay. And the last question would be, you mentioned last time that there could be some possibility of renegotiations on the rental income side for our office building complex side. So has there been any change in terms of the rental incomes expected from there, or they're broadly intact as of now? That's the last question from my side.
Yeah. So far, they are still intact.
All right. Sure. Thank you, and all the best.
Thank you.
We have very difficult from Dumpster. The line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hi. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. Just to get a sense of where we are in terms of our demand, I understand that we anyways would be working with some form of an order book at any given point of time. So could you just tell us how it is looking like at this juncture compared to what it is in let's say last year at the similar time? Probably like 40% of normal, 50% of normal. So that would probably help us understand where we are and how probably that has changed over the last month. Let's say.
Yeah. So our order books are pretty strong right now, and I would say that's mainly because in the last quarter we shipped only for 1 month, which means there is a lot of pending demand which we are now trying to fulfill and catch up on. How that really indicates into real market demand, we'll have clarity on that only by the end of this quarter. And so it's very, very difficult to say how strongly it will recover. But all I can tell you at this stage is that as of now we have got a pretty strong order board as of today.
My second question is on the power gen side. Want to understand commercial reality, which could be things like shopping malls, office complexes, etc. In a normal year, how big would that be as a percentage of your domestic power gen sales? The reason I'm asking that is I'm not sure if that is an area which possibly would take much, could probably see some challenges, in the medium to long term. So just wanted to understand that.
Yeah, it's an important segment. I couldn't tell you the exact percentage in previous years was this year, but I can tell you that it's a pretty important segment for us because those offices and those kinds of building complexes buy a lot of large gensets. And certainly when they are not building those complexes or those complexes are idle, those companies don't tend to then buy new equipment till their situation is improved. So I can say that certainly that will have an impact on us. And we are working on alternate segments which are doing better to try to make up some of those losses.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Next we have Priyanka Biswas from Nomura. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Priyanka from Nomura. So my question is, as of today, if you can quantify, so what would be your current utilization level, let's say, versus, let's say, compared to pre-COVID levels before the COVID outbreak broke out? I mean, at present.
I would say we are somewhere close to 65 to 70% kind of utilization level.
Okay. And the second part is, sir, what I understand is this shift towards mechanical to electronic engines and the lower emissions. So does this open up opportunities even in, let's say, the more developed geographies? Because what I understand is the emission norms that we will be having now is actually comparable to, let's say, the US or even Japan, for example. So is there something that is there in the pipeline, like product approvals or something that can give us some visibility on the export markets ahead?
Yeah, certainly it opens up the doors for export markets. As I have explained in the past, Cummins has a manufacturing strategy where we have three main hubs around the world. The first one, of course, is in the home country of the company, which is in the United States. The second is in the largest growing market for the company, which is in China. And the third, the biggest manufacturing base for the company is in India. And that continues. India continues to be a major hub for manufacturing for Cummins for utilization around the world. Certainly the opportunities for more products open up. The difference in the levels of emissions all nullify and they all become equal around the world. And the way those opportunities typically play out is if we are better than others in the world in terms of cost, quality, delivery, efficiency, then certainly more opportunities have opened up in the past for India and will continue to open up in the future as well.
So can you throw something on the pipeline, let's say, for these things to happen? I think maybe you would require, let's say, some product approvals in those geographies, probably. I mean, to ship it from India. So anything on works in that? So something on that side.
Yeah. So most of the if you look at the way products get developed, for example, in India, we are developing CPCB 4 Plus products. So CPCB 4 Plus products are equivalent to EPA Tier 4 kind of emission norms. And so once those products are developed, then they go for testing in multiple countries and they get approval certificates in multiple countries. We have already done that for many geographies in Europe and in America with our CPCB 2 products. And a similar kind of path will be followed for CPCB 4 Plus products as they get developed. So there is a well-documented process to be able to do all of these, and those are all being followed.
Okay, sir. And sir, just one question, if I may just squeeze that in. So I see that sequentially you have half your other expenses broadly. So I think, of course, one factor would be that your sales were down, so that explains a part of it. but still, even then, it seems to have been cut down significantly. So, if you can elaborate, like, of these other expenses that you have, what could be probably the fixed component? I mean, more like the fixed cost that cannot really be cut out under any circumstances. And what can be the sustainable level, what you feel is going forward?
Yeah, so it's very difficult to give you that kind of clarity in a company which has been in existence for 58 years. But all I can tell you is that, as I had mentioned even in my call last quarter, we have been taking various actions to reduce costs. And what we are committed is that you will see the impact of many of those actions in subsequent quarters. So certainly we are seeing the impact of some of those actions. And if I were to classify in the broad areas where we have seen improvement, certainly we've had improvement due to the volume. In cost, we have all our cost reduction activities on discretionary spending has gone down. Our products have performed better in the market, and so our warranty costs are lower. So just about every part of cost management has gone into getting there. And we are watching it. We are continuously watching what is fixed, what is variable, what is fixed and can be converted into partially variable is the kind of exercise we are going through. We call that exercise rings of defense, and I've been talking about it, and we have been going through it for the last 6 months, and we will continue to keep working on that.
Okay, sir. That's all from my side.
Thank you.
Next is Abhishek Suri from Axis Capital. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. Good morning, sir. So two things. First, in terms of your product approvals that you mentioned in annual report, like the hazardous material approval for LHP products to be marketed in Europe, as well as high horsepower products for the MENA region. How big that market can be, and how soon can we start with those projects? With the products that have been approved recently?
So we have already started some of those. We have started gradually. Usually the way this works in the global system is once we have completed those approvals, we start getting trial orders. And then based on the success of how well they work in those markets, then more orders show up. I can't give you the exact breakup or exactly how much we will be able to get out of that. But I can tell you that the reason those projects got approved is because they have a good business case which has good internal rate of return, etc., and good NPV. So yeah, these are positive steps for the company, and we will continue to move forward with that.
Could that really improve our the LHP and HHP, in the coming year or maybe year later, has that got potential to double or, anything of that sort, or these will be more incremental?
I would say they will be incremental. And, most of these kinds of ideas are incremental, incremental little by little is how we got to be a large business. So one can't discount that as you start exporting more and start playing in more and more niche segments, more opportunities keep opening up.
Okay, great to hear. So secondly, on the railways business, I think you mentioned that HOD-based systems will reduce the DA requirements for locals, by half as a backup arrangement only in future. So any other product segments which can compensate for that loss?
Yes, we are working on quite a few products and projects on that. I won't comment into the exact detail till we have launched those products and till we are successful in getting those orders. All I can tell you is we are in final stages of quite a few exciting projects which will take us forward for the next few decades with with replacing whatever business will go away eventually.
So would you say that the 400 crores approximate revenues that we had in railway business last year, would that remain or would that reduce or increase with these new products? And
yeah, our aim is to try to keep increasing that business. So we are not in the business of trying to lose business or trying to reduce our share in any segment. So certainly we are pushing aggressively to try to keep growing rail. Rail is an important segment for Cummins in India and around the globe. And we think we have some exciting products to continue to build the success we've had in rail and grow on that further.
Great. Okay. And if I may squeeze one more, sir, employee and cost overheads have been, commendable that, they have reduced for both the at both the cost levels. So is there any one-off there or, your efforts have been there for many years, but this quarter has seen, the results. So should we consider that as sustainable numbers or should we consider that as one-off?
See, employee costs will always keep going up. So it's going to be a constant fight and a battle to keep improving efficiency, keep improving your cost structure, keep improving the way your per employee output keeps improving. So, one does not build a successful company at the cost of, underpaying employees or just taking employee action. So certainly we focus on that. We are a top employer of the nation, and so certainly we have to worry about what we do with our people costs. But we are focused on that, and we are pretty optimistic that we will keep delivering better value to the shareholders.
Great. Thank you so much, and all the very best.
Next is Ritesh Agarwal from UTI Mutual Fund. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Good morning, gentlemen. So my first question is, the way we understand Cummins India in FY19 was a 16 to 17% EBITDA margin company. Last few quarters, that understanding has been shaken. So what are the factors in the medium to long term that need to fall in place for you to go back to the previous margin level? Or is it that such margins are out of question in this industry?
I honestly believe that we can certainly get to those margin levels that you mentioned. And the big levers for us usually are improving sales and improving our utilization and our fixed cost absorption better, and continuing to focus on our cost structure to make sure that it is aligned to our profit ambition. So we are very focused on making sure that all our stakeholders get the kind of margin we have delivered in the past, and we are working on getting back to those levels.
Okay. And on the export front, can you help us understand the size of low to medium kVA genset market across the geographies and Cummins India's market share out there?
It's a very, very complex question, Ritesh, and I don't really have a good answer other than to say that Cummins is probably in the top two in terms of global power gen as far as a global player is concerned. And the fact that we are growing and India plays a significant part in Cummins's global manufacturing and footprint strategy. So I can't tell you more than that. All I can tell you is this is a very important market for Cummins. It's a very cyclical market, which is why you see large ups and downs here. But Cummins is focused on this market, and we are trying to improve our position and thereby India's export potential as well.
Okay. And lastly, as I understand from the earlier question, as you move to CPCB4, the potential for Cummins payments may increase to some of the geographies like North America, Japan, where the emission norms are different. But how difficult it is to convince the local entity out there in the US to cut out the local production and import it from India, given that we are giving it at a cheaper cost?
Yeah, it's very difficult to do that unless you provide significant value in terms of, like I mentioned, cost, quality, and delivery. But we have done that in the past. We do supply products to every major European, Asian, and North American market based on being able to deliver that kind of advantage. Certainly, when that advantage is not enough to cover their fixed costs or their sunk costs, certainly they will not be open to buy those products. But that's the way the game is played. Unless you can prove value to any customer or market, there is no free entitlement to just be able to ship products.
Okay. Thank you. All the best.
Next is Ajinkya Gaikwad from Macquarie. The line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hi, good morning, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. So two questions from my side. The first question is on the employee cost. You had mentioned earlier that your VRS and other employee salary-related actions were supposed to impact 15% of the workforce and would start showing benefits from April. So whatever staff cost number you have reported this quarter, can we take it as a new quarterly run rate, or are there any actions pending, or could there be certain one-off additions in the rest of the year, like let's say performance-linked incentives which you might have deferred but could be restored in the latter part of the year? Your comment on that? That's the first question.
Yeah. So certainly there are when you do employee actions or payroll actions, they are built up into multiple components. There are things you do with salaries which are of temporary nature, which have been done during the recessionary period. There are things which we have done on a more permanent basis, such as headcount reduction and VRPs, etc. Those certainly continue. The impact and benefits of that continue. And there are certain things we have done in terms of deferring merits or deferring some settlements, etc. And those are likely to come back. And we are evaluating the situation, and we are focused on our profit objectives, and we are trying to figure out from a medium to long-term perspective what is the best strategy for us. So we will continue to take more adjustment actions as appropriate for the business as it picks up.
Okay. And sir, second question is, in the last quarterly update, you had mentioned that there were about 1.9 billion rupees worth of shipments that were deferred in the last quarter. Basically, the products were ready but could not be shipped out due to the sudden nationwide lockdown. Has it all been dispatched and revenues booked in this particular quarter? Essentially, what I'm trying to understand is that mathematically we can see that if there was 2 months of lockdown, so your revenues are 63% down YOY. But if this already includes 1.9 billion of deferred shipments, then your actual execution and shipments in this particular quarter, excluding that deferred portion, it would show a decline of more than 75%. So is that a significant demand weakness that you have seen?
It's a very complex question, but I'll try to answer it in the best way. Certainly, it is true that we were shut down for 2 months, so mathematically you can say that only 33% of what we shipped, and certain segments have had a deeper fall than that, as I mentioned. Power generation, for example, has fallen by more than 75%. So yes, it is true that some segments have fallen more. We have shipped some of those backlogs which we could not ship. We have tried to catch up, but our order board is still looking pretty strong. So we'll get a much better understanding of full year impact impact by the end of this coming quarter, the July to September quarter, we'll get much more clarity on where we are likely to end up.
Sir, any number around what portion of that 1.9 billion has been shipped out this quarter?
I think all of it has been shipped out because it was all packed and ready to ship, and so the first thing that would have got shipped would have been that.
Okay, understood. That's it from my side. Thank you so much.
Next we have Bhavin from SBI Mutual Fund. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity. If you could just take the industrial segment, and it would be useful if you could just give a brief view of the outlook of the sector, maybe shortly, compressors, construction equipment, railways, mining. What are the new opportunities that you could see in the longer run?
Yeah. So, as you know, we are a major player in the compressor segment, and that segment was going through a cyclical correction. But because of good rains and good strong agricultural output, that segment is not expected to be impacted that strongly. Construction is the segment which has got impacted quite deeply, mainly because infrastructure spending has not happened. But the government has proclaimed even recently that the Prime Minister himself is going to aggressively push infrastructure development, and our business is directly correlated to money spent on infrastructure development. So that has the potential to bounce back very strongly. We again have very exciting products in that segment. So when that segment bounces back, we always do well in those segments. We have amazing customers there, and so that helps us in terms of, and good market share. So that helps us grow. Mining, we have made an entry into larger horsepower products, and with all this talk of Atmanirbhar Bharat and more business coming to Indian companies like Bharat Earth Movers, who are our big customers, we expect to move strongly in that area. Marine again is a lot of the spend is dependent on defense, the Navy, and many of those kinds of applications, and those have been lagging in this year because of lack of spend or lack of release of money in the past 4 to 5 months. But with the kind of crises faced by our country, we expect the spending there to start increasing, and so we are positive that segment will continue to grow. Rail, I mentioned earlier that we have lots of new exciting products coming up there to replace some of the business which is likely to get obsolete. But while it is not obsolete, while the old technology still continues, we continue to have extremely well-working products with being the preferred supplier to the government, and we will continue to maintain our strong market share in those areas. So overall, while the short term is not extremely bullish for the overall industrial segment, the medium to long term is extremely optimistic and bullish as far as those segments are concerned.
So, can we say over a medium to longer term, 20% compounded growth is achievable in this segment?
We don't give that kind of growth estimate or analysis, but you have to just look at the past trends of that segment, and there are periods when we have done even better than 20%. There are periods when we have not. So we think that we will do well in these segments as the technology technologies get more sophisticated, more complicated, Cummins has always done well in these segments around the world, and we are expecting to do the same in India.
Sure. So, question on margins. Pardon me, I joined in late. What could be the sustainable material margins that we could look for? And employee costs historically used to be in the range of 6 to 7% of revenues. Can we get back to that number as the growth resumes to normalcy and the optimization that we have done on the cost front?
Yeah, it's going to take some time, but certainly we are working towards those kinds of numbers and bring back material margins to historical levels. So, Bhavin, yes, we are working very diligently to bring back our profit margin levels to the levels we have historically delivered, and that's the biggest effort going on. I think we are confident that we will get there.
Sure. Thank you so much for taking my questions.
Before I question, I'll announce again, participants, if you have any, you may please press 0 and then 1. Next is Atul Tiwari from Citigroup. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot. So just one question. How much is the capex spend that we are seeing this year?
We continue to spend on capex, so we are cutting back a bit on anything which is non-essential. We are trying to cut back on or defer capex spend, but we continue to invest very strongly in areas which are related to R&D and new product development, which impacts our future. So we continue to invest there, and that actually is a great advantage to Cummins, because we have seen around the world that in these stressful times, when other companies cannot invest so heavily in some of these technologies, they then become more dependent, or well, I wouldn't say more dependent, they rely on with Cummins and on the ready technology which is already developed to use in their platform. So customers we have not had in the past, or areas where people have made their own investments, we find that in these stressful times, continuing to make investments in critical technology helps us in the long term.
But any rough number for this year that you would have finalized or would have in mind?
No, I won't at this time give you that kind of granularity. But all I can tell you is capex continues at Cummins India in a pretty aggressive manner as compared to other companies in our space.
Okay, thank you.
Next we have Ankur from Bank of America. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity, sir. Just a couple of bookkeeping questions from my side. I'm sorry if they have been answered already. It just got disconnected twice. Sir, can you please give the breakup of exports into low horsepower, high horsepower, mid-range, heavy-duty spares, etc.?
Sure. So exports is we had about sorry, 1 second. I'm just pulling up my data here. Yeah. So in exports we had a total of 126 crores, out of which low horsepower was 21 crores, mid-range was 36 crores. Heavy duty was 14 crores and high horsepower was 41 crores and spare parts was 14 crores.
Thank you, sir. And so similarly, if you could give the breakup for domestic gensets for similar categories?
Sure. As far as the domestic segment is concerned, we had 4 crores of LHP 21 crores of mid-range, 13 crores of heavy duty, 59 crores of high horsepower.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Next is Aditya Mongia from Prophet Securities. The line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone, and thanks for the opportunity. The first question which I had was related to the emission norms change. As we improve on our product offering, could you let us know what kind of opportunity for export opens up for us? And the opportunity, I mean something that company Global is already doing in these products at scale, which could be the potential size of what we can do eventually.
Sure. So I can't give you the exact potential size, but what I can tell you is that currently India is in what is called CPCB 2 as far as these products, or in BS3 as far as the off-highway products is concerned. As the technology moves up, it goes to what is called CPCB 4+, which is equivalent to EPA Tier 4, which is the current standard which is being used in the United States, or it is equivalent to Euro Stage 6, which is what is the standard being utilized in Europe and those markets. So when we go to these technologies, it brings us on par with all of those markets. Currently, we are only exporting what are called lagging emission products. This opens up the door to also export leading emission products. Of course, like I said, there are many variables between just being able to be at the same emission levels and actually getting orders and being able to export and, to fulfill demand in those markets. So while it opens the doors wide open for us to many more opportunities and markets which the company has been exploring, and because India is a region from which a lot of products are sourced around the world, it opens the doors for us to do even more.
So the second question which I had, somewhat related, was that we obviously talked about cost, delivery, quality, key metrics that will be taken into account. Could you provide us with a subjective comparison of Indian products versus Chinese products from a company's perspective, and how India would fare on these metrics? So that's a subjective comment to can get a sense of what are the strengths of manufacturing from India versus China for Cummins.
As far as Cummins is concerned, and I cannot answer for other industries, I can tell you Cummins India has the best cost structure as compared to any geography in the world. So this is why many of those geographies, including some of the ones you mentioned, import products from India. So I can tell you that our overall cost structure, our quality is really among the better in the world. So that's why we get those opportunities.
Sure. The last question from my side was that in the annual report and even otherwise, we've been speaking about increasing competitive intensity for the exports portfolio. I wanted to get a sense from you, who are the key competitors over here? Would it be the companies exporting from India on the LHP front? I just want to get a sense of competition from your side on the export front and how things are shaping up over there.
It's different in different geographies. So, for example, in continents like Africa and Latin America, it is Chinese products. In Europe and Middle East, it is some products which are made by American and European manufacturers which compete with us. And in the nearby geographies like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, etc., are local Indian manufacturers. So that's the way probably I would answer that question. It's different for different regions,
fair. I have no question that I get back into it. Thank you.
Next, we have Rahul from IIFL Securities. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah, thank you. Sir, I had a question on the industrial business, and I think you did give a very good outlook on each element of the industrial business. Could you give us a breakup of the revenue of the industrial business, including compressor, construction, mining, railway, marine, etc.?
Yeah, I think I did that. I'll do it again. Out of the 80 crores that we had in the last quarter, 12 crores was in compressor, 8 crores was in construction, 15 crores was in mining, 35 crores was in rail, 4 crores was in marine, and 6 crores was in other effects.
Okay, and would you have the numbers for the fourth quarter handy?
Sure. Yes. It was 245 crores in that quarter, and it was 33 crores in compressor, 83 crores in construction, 26 crores in mining, 92 crores in rail, 1 crore in marine, and 10 crores in others.
Okay, right. Thank you very much, sir. That's all from my side.
Next, we have Amar from Emkay Global. The line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, sir. I have a couple of questions. The first is it incurring...
Sorry, Amar, your voice is very low.
Hello?
Yeah, it's better now. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So the question was, you have been incurring spend on the preparedness for CPCB 4+ for quite some time. Now, even though you mentioned about 3/4 likely pushback in CPCB 4+, you also mentioned about the export opportunity that this could open up. So is it possible that even though the domestic implementation of CPCB 4+ is getting pushed out, but your export opportunity could take off since you are already ready on this? Or is it that the economics of scale will only allow you to do this when the domestic market also opens up?
I think you partially answered the question by you got to scale up before you become cost competitive to be able to meet all the market requirements, and also the development is